Oh, we're live. No intro, no nothing. Here we go.
Oh, here we go. Oh, the intro. That's right. I forgot the intro.
That's the intro. All right.
This is what happens when you take a week off.
I'm telling you, man, that's okay. We had an amazing Memorial Day. You were traveling back from Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
I was up in Traverse City doing some wine tasting, and here we are. We're back.
It was a good weekend.
We're back. It's a good weekend. It's a good weekend.
No, my bad on the intro. I apologize. Yeah.
Yeah, all good. All good. Usually we have the countdown all thrown up. All right, well, good morning, everybody. So, hey, welcome to the Saturday morning webinar and live stream that we do. We've been doing it. Gosh, it's been like over a year now straight. And so, I'm Austin Pothast. I'm the director of sales on the team, and Mike Perna is our CEO. Mm-hmm. Mike Perna also got a lot of sun in Abu Dhabi, and I'm a little concerned with you. If you guys have any lotion recommendations for Mike's head,
oh god, it's so bad.
Feel free to throw those in the chat.
It's so bad. I'm telling you, man. I'm using like an exfoliant, like a scrub thing. Like it's Are
you exfoliating? Is that what's going on?
I'm trying that too. Yeah, like I'm using like an exfoliant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only here. Like the rest of it is good. But it was just that those last 2 days, right? Those last 2 days, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to soak up as much sun as I can. So in 105-degree direct sun, Middle East, hours each day, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it happens. By the way, I got some bad news this week along that same front. So I'm a big fan of SPF. I mean, it's like an American Express for me. I don't go anywhere without it, right? I'm pretty fair skinned, and apparently there's some new studies out that there's like carcinogens in suntan lotion. So really? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now my wife just chimed in and said, not the ones that we buy, but like, I haven't known her my whole life. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I've been without that information in some formative years. And so I guess damned if I'm do, damned if I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, and I'm bad at that. I don't use any of the SPFs. I don't use any of the suntan lotions or any of that stuff. None of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I probably should. I probably should have.
There's plenty of things worse than a sunburn, but there's nothing worse than a sunburn.
No, I know. Yeah.
Anyhow, so hey, good morning, everybody. And so here's the format of this. Team SPF 70. Thank you, Katie. I'm with you, Katie Rogers. Throw
there
that
it is.
up.
Oh my God, Katie Rogers, she like glows. Like I went to the office the other day and the power was out, but it was fine because she was there.
She's from Minnesota originally. They just, of course, they probably get more sun than us, to be honest with you. But
True.
A little colder out there. But anyway, so welcome and good morning. And so the format of this is anything that you have on your mind real estate related. We take the time and we answer the questions. And Mike, I like to think that we do it in about as candid of a fashion as you can do it. It's kind of unscripted. We just give you our opinion on it and give you the down low, right? So throw those questions in there. I know you and I were kind of talking about so feel free to do that. You and I were talking about some different topics, and I I'd love to bounce one at you. Can I share with you something that I've been experiencing here over the last couple of weeks? Yeah,
please.
Look, there's a lot of folks that are really nervous about upsizing, right? And so what I mean by upsizing, Mike, is I'm saying like, okay, you're in a home, and let's pretend that you bought your quote unquote starter home, right? So I paint a picture like let's pretend you're 30 years old and you bought a 3-bedroom home, and now like 5 years later, you've got 2 kids, and you're looking at it and you're like, man, I'm crammed in here and I need more space. I need to go from 1,100 square feet to like 1,700 square feet, or I need to go from 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. Or another big one that we run into, Mike, is like all of us are sharing one bathroom, and so like there's either going to be deaths in our home, or we need to get a second bathroom, or whatever that looks like. But and then they kind of go out and I don't know, they're experiencing a little bit of sticker shock. I think it's just a fear of upsizing. So that's kind of what I've been experiencing. I guess I'd like to toss it over to you. What are your thoughts on that?
No, and I'm seeing the same thing, and And one thing that I'm hearing is a lot of people are super afraid to get their homes on the market to make that upsize move. Or any kind of move, upsize, downsize, left size, right size. It doesn't matter. Like because homes right now, they and depending on price point, of course, but they're moving just so darn quick. They're afraid of getting out there and not finding something and becoming homeless.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that quite a bit in the market right now, which again, keeps propelling the problem of there's no inventory, right? So there aren't enough homes on the market. So people are afraid to put their home on the market because they won't find something, which again withholds homes from the market. And it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy instead of people saying, okay, you know what, we're going to jump out there and we're going to go and find that home. And we are going to put our home on the market, which would actually ease the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this juggling act. How do we plan out? We know we got to sell our house, but we don't want to put our spot, especially like I got 2 kids, man. I can't put myself in a spot where, like I'm going to be homeless or like having to live in an extended stay or something for an extended period of time. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a tough spot to be here. And so we've talked about this topic a lot. I also think there's some mindset involved here, Mike. So I'll paint that same picture. So let's pretend you were a family and you went out, or maybe you were a newlywed, right? Maybe you were a newlywed. You went out and looked at a property and you bought a home, or maybe you had your first baby and you bought a home. And let's pretend you bought it for like a 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square foot home in Livonia, Plymouth, Westland, any of them, right? Like, all the way out east side, any of these places, right?
Right.
And, or even like Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, anywhere, right? And let's pretend you bought that home for $200,000, and at the time, $250 felt like a stretch, but you could have gotten like a 4-bed, bath and a half, 1,700 square foot, like colonial for $250. But that's like a stretch at the time, right? With your budget. So you're like, okay, it's time to upsize. We had another baby, or my kids are in an age, I need to get into this extra bathroom. I need to get the extra bedroom, whatever it might be. Maybe we had an unexpected 3rd child, right? Whatever it is, right? And now you're going out and looking, and that property that would have been $250 when you were looking 5 or 6 years ago is what, 3.25?
Yeah. Probably a little higher. Yeah.
Maybe even 350.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably 350.
Yeah.
Probably 350.
No, I think you can get a.
Well, I mean, it depends on. It's going to depend on the city too, right?
Yeah.
It's going to depend on city. It's going to depend on the amenities. It's going to depend on all of those things, right? Because there are some cities where that home, that 4-bedroom with a bath and a half or 2 full baths will be, $450 or $500. Some where it will be $300. So we always got to temper it with the location.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I always think Livonia, like, because Livonia is just kind of it's an all-American city. It's a good city, right? I always think Livonia for whatever reason.
One of the top 50 safest cities in the U.S.
No doubt, good city, right? And I think a 4-bed, 2-bath, or a 4-bed, bath and a half colonial in Livonia is probably 3.25, right?
Yeah, 3.25, 350, right in that range.
Somewhere in that range. So there's like some sticker shock there.
Yeah.
I mean, there really is, though. It's so part of this is a mental thing. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. And so you're a family now, and you're faced with that decision. Do you go like, man, do we gut it out? Because I don't think that house is worth that, right? We're running into that a lot. I can't believe how much homes are selling for. I can't believe that house is worth that.
Yeah.
And it's all part of a bigger narrative, right? So from a mindset standpoint, Mike, like because you got to wrap your head around it when you're upsizing. When you're upsizing, you're going to pay more, right? So you got to kind of wrap your head around that. So like, what's your advice to people that are trying to wrap their head around that, Mike?
Well, and I see 2 different things kind of coming out, right? So some people are afraid that the market's going to crash.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So there's a fear that the market's going to crash like it did in 07, 08, 09. and they're going to lose not only lose a ton of equity, but go negative. Right. And then there's another fear that they're overpaying for a property just in general. Just in general. Like, I just don't want to pay that much. Right. So we'll tackle those individually. Now, the I don't want to pay that much crowd. And I totally understand that. I think with anything in life, I mean, and not just a house, but a house, a car, a T-shirt, going to Costco and buying a thing of salmon. Like, it doesn't matter. We look at everything and think it should be a little bit less expensive than it really is.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
It really is. Like, man, you just bought a new car.
Yeah.
For any of you guys that haven't bought a car in 10 years, get ready.
It's a bear.
It's
oh my God, it's a bear. And it's a bear on two fronts, right? It's a bear because those sticker prices.
Yeah.
And it's a bear because there is a lack of inventory on cars right now because that microprocessor chip thing situation that's going on, which should be correcting itself by the end of the year. But here's all right, fun fact.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine in Florida owns a Land Rover, a Range Rover. I don't know. I buy American, one of the big ones. The big one, the bigger Range Rover. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
that sounds right. That sounds right.
Range Rover, great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 2 years old. He's got 50,000 miles on it. He took it to the dealer. Well, he went to the dealer because he was thinking, well, maybe I'll trade this in and get another one. And not only did they not have that one, but the dealer said, hey, we'll buy it from you for $10,000 more than you paid for it 2 years ago, new.
Yeah.
Cars actually went up in value, not down in value in the last 2 years, used cars. And that doesn't happen. And that's not an isolated incident. I'm hearing about this from different people that have been to dealerships, right? You know, everything just gets more expensive as time goes on. So kind of bringing this one home, you know, as a buyer of any product or good or service, we always want to look at something and think that should be less expensive.
Yeah.
As a seller, and again, you know, think about this. If you've ever sold something on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or, Craigslist or anything like that, we're always disappointed at how little we got.
Sure.
So it's perspective. It's perspective as to what side of the coin you're on, right? Yeah. You're never happy. I mean, in my opinion, you're never happy enough with the money you get for something, and you're always overpaying for the next thing. Yeah. At least mentally.
Yeah. Look, traditionally we see that from sellers, right? Like people always think that their home is worth. I mean, not much. People aren't like crazy. I mean, people don't do crazy things for the most part, but they always think it's a smidge worth more than what it is.
Sure.
Right. An asset. We say this all the time. An asset is worth what someone's willing to pay for it, and it doesn't matter what the asset is. That's how the stock market works. That's how Bitcoin works. That's how gold works. That's how anything works. Right. That's how cars work. Something is worth what someone's willing to pay for. That's how it works. But anyway,
and then go ahead.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say, and one of the things that we say all the time, Mike, is like, look, sellers for the most part, they care how much they're walking away with in their pocket.
Yes.
But buyers care what their payment is.
100.
I mean, we run into some cash buyers, but by and large, people finance things, especially right now because rates are sub 3%. So it's like, so people are looking at it and they're getting a sticker shock on it. But the reality is that to upsize that home might be $500 more a month. Now, the truth is $500 is $500, right? It's not an insignificant amount of money.
A lot of money.
But compared to 5 years ago, you might be earning more. You might be earning more. You might be spending less on other things. You might be, and just over the course of time, things go up in price. And the other interesting thing about that is, if you intend on living in a home Mike, if you intend on living in a home for 10 years, your home's going to go up in value too. And so you're locking in on a great home on today's prices versus what you would pay for that home 10 years from now or 5 years from now and be miserable sharing all one bathroom. You know what I mean?
And that's an interesting kind of third point. And I will get back to the other point of where the market is, what could cause it to crash, and what will make it not crash. But that's an interesting point where people will go into a home with the intention to live there for 4 or 5 years, let's just call it.
Yeah.
Right. 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, they're still there. And I'm the example, right? I am the example. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Mark from Florida.
I might be ready to buy a VRBO down in Naples. Can
Yeah.
you talk me into that or out of that?
Mark can definitely talk you into that. And
I'm sure Mark could talk me into that.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, I'm going to holler at you.
Yeah. But anyway, where I was going with it is I mean, look at, I mean, and I'll use my parents as an example, right? So they built a home in 1984, nothing to do with George Orwell or the book or anything like that, but they just built a home in 1984, and their intention was to move in 1990, 1992, something like that, when we were of a certain age, and then get into the next home.
Yep.
They stayed into that home all the way to 2002.
Yep.
Yeah. So their intention was to move 8 or 10 years later, but it was more like 20.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. I mean, like this home that I'm in right now, my intention was to be here for 3 years, and we're going on 6.
Yeah.
You know, and I am actively looking for a home. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate the word active like a 2, but you know, I would like to move, and I've got other things we're doing. You know, I would like to move, and I got to run a real estate team. I would like to move, and I got to shovel the snow today, so I'm not going to look on Zillow. I'd like to move, and life happens.
Yeah.
And this is just how it goes, right? And my point with this is making that move sooner, to your point, Austin, because home values are going up, and they sure are not going to be going down anytime soon, even if the market does drop 5 or even 10%, which, let's be honest, that's just unrealistic to happen. If you look at any economic indicator, that's just not going to happen. And we'll get into that a little bit. You're locking in at both today's price and today's interest rate.
Yep.
Both.
Yep.
So my advice is, and I should probably take this advice myself, make the move.
Make the move.
Make the move. Actually 350 house before it goes to 425.
How about this? We even went more aggressive than that when we bought our home, Mike. I don't know if I told you this story, but when we bought our home, we were coming from 3-bed with a bed in the basement, like a finished basement. So we kind of called it a 4-bed, but it was really a 3-bed, 2-bath, probably 1,500 square foot ranch with a 2-car garage, right? And so what our intent was is we wanted to buy something for like 2,500 square foot with a basement, or like 2,200 square feet with a basement. We didn't want to go too much bigger. And then we thought for ourselves, like, we'll move again at some point. You know, we'll live here for 5 years and then or 7 years or whatever. And then we'll move again at some point. We'll upsize and go bigger. And so then when we were looking at homes, we came across the home that we're in now. And it was the next home after the next home. Does that make sense? That's a really funny comment. One of our agents. I just need 5 minutes, buddy. Let's talk about your home search.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good job, Cody. Good job, Cody.
Cody, you're a fantastic agent. Fantastic agent. We just helped Cody and his aunt and uncle and did a killer job for them. Got them like $30,000 over on selling their home. So anyway, look. So what we ended up doing, Mike, is like we bought our next home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like when we first moved in, it was kind of like, and it also meant that we would take on a little more on the repair side. Like when we moved in, there was an extra wallpaper and there was extra stuff like that. But we were like, you know what? At that point we didn't have any kids, Mike, but we were like, all right, well, we intend to have at least one, hopefully 2, if God willing. And now we have 2. And so we wanted something with 4 bedrooms, and we have a 5th one kind of down in the basement with a walkout basement. And we were like, this is too much house for us. But you know what? Rather than have to move again in 5 years, let's grow into this thing. And so we actually bought our next home. And it was like those first couple of years, it was a bit of a stretch. Like it was $300 more a month than we wanted to pay. You know what I mean?
And I was going to ask you that because my parents had done something very similar where they were looking. So they ended up in a 2,400 square foot home. And at that time in the early 80s, I mean, that's a big home. And that's what they were building. So they were originally looking in a different city around 1,700 with the intention to live there for 3 or 4 years, build a little equity, my dad was going to be from a journeyman electrician to a master electrician, maybe pick up some extra cash that way at some point in time, because that's a hard license to get, and then make that next move as we entered school. But then frankly, the market, there was a builder that was frankly doing a poor job and kind of, his builds were good, but he was pretty much teetering on the edge of going out of business. And he slashed the price of a home $10,000. A new build. That's all it was $10,000, which in today's world looks like a lot. If we reset the money 35 years back, it's a $35,000 or $40,000 slash today on a new build, right? If we adjust. And my mom and my dad, I feel like my dad kind of got into that, like kicking and screaming, but they did go for that home. And it was folding chairs and bologna sandwiches for the first couple of years. It was tight. It was way tighter than they ever thought that they would do, but It worked out, and it worked out well, because after the first 2 years, all of a sudden General Motors is paying more. My dad is making more. There's a new license, the master electrician license that came in. My sister started going to school, so my mom was able to go back to work. Like all of those things kind of fell into place 2 years later. So and that's probably the impetus for the reason why they didn't move, in year 10, but they waited till year 20. But it worked. It actually worked. And to your point, we grew into the house because of Art Van and, other things that people used to fill houses with, or at least at the time, Art Van.
Sure.
Today, Amazon, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing I say to people. When this is a delicate conversation, Mike. So I'll probably like that. Art Van's a delicate conversation.
It really is. That's a Michigan thing, and is no longer a thing.
I find most clients are upsizing somewhere in like their 30s, like I'd say 30s and kind of early 40s. Agreed?
Yeah.
It's that's kind of the wheelhouse when people upsize. I'm specifically talking to you all that are in your early 30s. One of the things that's really difficult to do is to bet on yourself. Right, because you're looking at your wages, or you're looking at what you're earning, and you don't want to outstretch yourself. You don't want to put yourself. You heard all these horror stories about people overextending themselves, and then the financial markets crash, and people lost homes, and kind of all those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and where I'm going with this, Mike, is do you know what the prime earning years for most Americans is? Like the years that you earn the most money traditionally in your career?
I gotta be honest, I have no idea.
No idea at all?
I honestly have no idea. I've never even thought about that, but that's a really cool statistic. I want to know.
Yeah.
Compared to your expenses?
No,
probably when you're like
prime earning years, just dollars earned.
Okay, that's different, because I was going to go with like 16 or something, because your parents are taking care of all the stuff.
Yeah.
And you're making like lunch money and stuff like that, right? And you're buying like a moped or whatever.
You're buying a system for your car.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my God! Out there.
That's what I did. That is what I did. Man, I had the baddest Kenwood head unit.
It's
probably 35 to 45.
Yeah, you're right in the range. It's a few younger for women. Women peak a little earlier than men.
Oh, they're smart
by a couple of years. But it's basically like 45 to 55.
Okay. And right? No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
right?
Because you're in your all right. So, and that does make perfect sense, because if you think about it logically, like we don't truly become adults till our late 20s. Let's be honest, right? Because the entire book on it called.
Yeah, we don't even become human beings as men until like our late 20s. Yeah.
For anybody in your 20s, or anybody that has somebody that like a kid that's going into their 20s, grab the book, The Defining Decade. Yes. The Defining Decade. And it's about exactly that, about how like we're pushing our kids to try to find themselves as teenagers going into college. But the reality is we're not even fully developed until, basically mid 20s. And we really settle into who we are and what we love in our late 20s, somewhere between 26 and 28. Right. And it's a great book. Gary Keller recommended us to read it. And I did, working with people in their 20s to kind of help coach them and kind of get on that level. But extremely highly recommended. But anyway, late 20s, we're just settling into who we are.
Yep.
And the 10,000 hour rule dictates it takes 4 to 5 years of working 40 hours a week to
10.
really become specialized.
10 years to be a master at anything. 10 years, 40-hour weeks. Yeah, 10,000.
So that puts us into our late 30s at best.
Yep.
And then we got to do the work, and we got to do the work at a high level for somebody to recognize us, promote, then promote again.
Yep.
And that puts us into our 40s. That makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Looking at all the other pieces, it makes perfect sense.
And this is a hard conversation to have with someone that's nervous about upsizing in their lifestyle, or maybe going a little over their budget, what they wanted to do when they're 32 years old or 35 years old or whatever it is. But the reality is the conversation that sometimes I'll have. It's a delicate conversation. You really have to have trust with the client in order to have this direct of a conversation. But the conversation that I'll have with them is like, hey, you got to bet on yourself. You're not even close to your prime. The other thing that we get skewed by is athletes. Like, we hear prime for a professional athlete is like what, 26, 28, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But us as like humans and as earners and workers, our prime isn't until like 45 to 55.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so there's a bet on yourself element. And so that's what we did. That's what we did. We were like, you know what? We're in a good spot. We're earning money. This isn't going to kill us. It's more than we're stretching ourselves based on what we want to do, but let's bet on ourselves. We're only getting better at what we do. And we're only getting, and we have, like, since then, since we bought this home, I think my wife's been promoted 2 or 3 times. My earning has gone up. It's just, there's a bet in yourself thing. You know what I mean? It's a difficult thing to broach, but yeah, 45 to 55.
Yeah.
Anyhow, okay. So let's talk about timing then. By the way, hey, good morning, everybody. If it's your first time on this, welcome. We do this every single Saturday at 10 a.m. And we're all over the place. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube and we're on web pages and all kinds of stuff. And so my name is Austin Pothast. I'm the director of sales on the Perna team. Mike is the CEO and founder of the Perna team. And look, we answer any questions that you have real estate related, and so throw them in the box, throw them in the chat box. We'll make sure that we answer them for you. The topic that we've been talking about today is kind of the nervousness about, now that's funny.
That is funny.
I bought the extra warranty. But anyway, so the topic that we've been talking about this morning is like, people are nervous about upsizing. People are nervous about upsizing.
About timing. Yeah.
So previously what we've covered is just kind of the mindset side of things. Like, things always cost more than you think they should, right? There's always a sticker shock when you go to buy something. Anybody that's gone and bought a car recently knows that. Anybody that's gone and bought lumber recently knows that, right? There's always sticker shocks for things. Anybody that's ever tried a home renovation and thought, okay, I'm going to budget $5,000 and 10 grand later, you're done with your home renovation. Just things cost more than what you think they should, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that we've been talking about is kind of betting on yourself and knowing that, hey, it's okay. It's okay to stretch yourself a little bit now, because what's going to happen is wages are going to catch up and you're going to lock in on, you're better off getting the home that you want and locking in on that versus flubbing it and having to move 5 years from now, right?
Yep.
And so we've just been talking about the mindset side of things. And so the other thing that comes into play with that, Mike, and you brought it up early, but I'm going to pass this back off to you, is like the timing of things. So like, people don't want to put themselves in a spot where people don't want to put themselves in a spot where, like, they've sold their house, but they're not finding the house that they want, and they're not finding the house that they want for the price they want to pay, is what that conversation actually is. But they're not finding the home that they want. And, and so talk a little bit about the timing of a move, Mike, and how we can do that.
Absolutely. So a couple things on this. If you're considering making a move anytime in the next year, 2 things. 1, move up that timeline as far as possible. Do yourself the favor. The Case-Shiller Index just came out showing that nationwide, year over year, homes went up 13.2% in average sales price, in value, right? 13.2%. That's huge. Second, here in Michigan, it's even more aggressive. We're closer to 15%. We're just a hair below 15%. And this is how aggressive it is. In May, the average home closing sales price went up $8,500 from May 1st to May 31st. In 30 days, home values went up on average $8,500.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I just ran the numbers. Yeah. And I'm running the numbers. I'm not even running numbers at this point on a yearly basis or a half year basis or even a quarterly basis. I'm running numbers now on a monthly basis because things are changing that rapidly, right? Home values are changing that rapidly. So if you're thinking, okay, maybe next spring I'm going to make a move. Nope. Today is the day. Now is the time. I would heavily advise somebody to get into the market and looking. The second reason why is it's taking 90 days longer than normal to find that perfect home.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of clients, and one of our inside sales associates had just tagged me on one where this buyer had gone out with one of our agents a couple times, just hadn't what they were looking for yet. They've been searching for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And the reality is the home that you want is probably not on the market this week. And it may not be on the market this month. But if we don't know what you're looking for and we don't know this today, when it does come up, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss it. So this is where you got to reach out to us, frankly, now and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. These are my criteria points. This is my home search. And then one of our people can be literally monitoring the market by hand on a daily basis for you. Because when it comes up, you got to grab it because the inventory is so tight. And so the homes are not coming to the market like they were. Because the problem isn't so much that there's 3 buyers for every home. The problem is there are fewer properties coming to market. It's not actually that demand has gone up because it really hasn't. It's a supply issue, right? And the supply issue has been culminating for a decade through, builders not building and a whole litany of things. So timing wise, I would advise getting out there sooner rather than later. If you're considering a move anytime in the next 12 months, give us a call today and have us monitor the market. And hand monitor the market. So when the right one comes up, we can get you out there and at least give you the ability to say no to something before somebody else takes that ability away from you.
Yeah.
That's it. Because if you wait 2 days, somebody else took away your option.
Yeah.
And then you don't even have the right to say no because somebody took that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying you have to buy a house. I'm just saying that I want to give you the opportunity to either say yes or no to a property, but I can't do that if I don't know you're looking. Second is, again, going to timing, home values are going up. They're not going down, right? The home that you're going to buy today is going to be 5 to 15% more expensive 6 to 12 months from now. And interest rates can't get any lower. They can't. The money cannot get cheaper, right? So let's think about that this way. So if you're looking at a home, let's call it 300,000 price range, that home is going to be 325 to 350 12 months from now. Right? And that just means a bigger payment because with interest rates going down, we saw a little bit of a pullback on payments, right? So we saw homes go up in value by 50,000, but the actual payments went down.
Yeah.
But we're done with that. That's over. Yeah. So from here on out, as home values keep going up, the payments keep going up because the interest going down.
Yeah, right? So it's kind of caught up. At first, you could buy something 50,000 more for less because of rates, but now we're in a spot where home prices have increased enough that it's okay, you're staring down a higher payment. Yeah. Yeah. Katie, this question. Yes. By the way, shout out to Katie Rogers. Katie is we kind of gave her a hard time about the SPF thing earlier, but Katie's an incredibly talented agent. One of the things that we talk about all the time on the team, you guys, is that how grateful we are for our clients and how grateful we are for the team members that work for us. And Katie's just an unbelievable person, the kind of person that would give you the shirt off her back. And it shows with the way she works with clients. And Katie, I can't thank you enough. And I can't tell you how proud I am and how proud of yourself you should be on how good of an agent you are. But anyway, how would you advise a client who is upsizing, but has to sell to buy? They're hesitant, understandably, to put themselves on the timeline in this process. Yeah.
Well, and then there goes the other part of it, right? Yeah. So now this is very interesting. I'm seeing a lot of clients right now look at it and say, okay, I'm going to go make that purchase, right? I do need to sell my home. So a lot of sellers are not taking contingent offers. And I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but I'm seeing a significant number of sellers say, great, we're going to go make a non-contingent offer on a property, even though we do have to sell this home to make it happen.
Yep.
Right. But we're going to put the closing out to a 45-day or a 55-day closing. And then we're going to put our home on the market 5 or 10,000 below value, get 6, 7 offers, and let the price get beaten up to, frankly, a higher price, because that's a great strategy in this market. When there are so many buyers in the market, underpricing slightly actually gets you more money and better terms.
Yep.
And you were talking about Livonia, and again, I'm watching the market on a monthly basis. I saw this happen with a couple of ranches down off of Plymouth Road, where some in the State Streets, where some of them had started up here and they kind of hung on the market 10 or 15 days, and then they got knocked down. Some of them started down here where I was on the market for 72 hours and got pushed up. The ones that got pushed up, each one of those 3 did better than the 5 or 6 that got knocked down. Yeah. Each one of those sellers actually netted more money. I'm doing a case study on this right now in a couple of different cities that have very similar properties and a lot of sales, because I want to see what the actual effect of this is. But the preliminary data is you actually get more money when you underprice slightly. And there's a reason for this. And the reason being is you're causing the buyers to move from acting with logic to emotion. Yep. It's a basic human instinct that we want to win.
Yep.
And once we're competing for something and we want to win, it becomes more about the winning than the price.
Yeah. By the way, I'll give you a real life example on this, Mike. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
I had a property I had a property that I sold, and
Hey,
Tom. The comps suggested, the comparable home sales suggested that I should price it at 3.25. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought in my head, based on the market, that I probably could get this client 340. Right. I thought 340 was the number. Okay. And so we were going back and forth, and we were talking, and he said, and the client said, hey, look, let's, he was pushing me to put it up at 340. And I said, hey, put it up at 3.25. That's what these comparables show.
Mm-hmm.
You just trust me on this one. We had so much activity first weekend. We had so many offers first weekend that we're under contract for significantly above 340. Right. And it's because, and it's not just the price. There's other terms that are associated with selling a home, Mike. And so we got great terms on everything else.
Yeah.
We got great timelines and everything else. We were able to really line the thing up. And so Katie, here's the question. Here's the question to ask your client in this scenario. And this is the question I would ask any client in the scenario. Is it more important to squeeze every ounce of juice out of the price of this home? Or is it more important to nail this move and get all the other terms that line up and get pretty close on that price? Right. And if you're moving a family, or if you're upsizing, downsizing, moving kids, whatever, the answer is no, make this easy for me. It's not, I'm less worried about getting an extra $5,000 on the sale of my home than I am making sure that this move lines up correctly.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're already getting more than what you thought you would get on your home anyway, what's an extra $5,000 if it's going to make your life miserable, or if you got to move twice, or you got to live in a hotel for a couple of months, right? So is it more important for you for me to squeeze every ounce out of this thing, or is it more important for me to really nail this move for you, right? And I would say 9.5 times out of 10, it's no. Let's get this thing lined up. I'm far more concerned with that than getting every penny.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed, Mike?
And bring this into an actual, okay. So, and this happens every day of the week and twice on Tuesday, where we're getting offers on properties. They're saying, hey, here's a price that's $3,000-4,000 higher, $5,000 higher than the next guy, but you got to be out at closing.
Yeah.
Right. So think about that. If you've got a couple of kids, you're now doing a double move. So there's a $3,000 to $5,000 extra cost. There's storage, because you got to put yourself somewhere, because you don't have access to that next property for a month usually. So there's storage, right? So there's another $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 in fees. Then you got to go to an extended stay. There's another $1,500. And then if you're working from home, you're all in the same spot. I mean, and now the schools are out, right? It doesn't matter if people went back to schools, they're out now. You've got 4 people habitating one room for 30 days. I mean, just the pain factor. Yep. Or you can take an offer that's $3,000 less, which is actually netting you more because of the cost of doing the double move. So putting it down into actual bite-sized chunks. Look at this thing, right?
Yep.
Now, when it comes to the sellers, here's what I advise people to do. Let's get ready for market, right? Because same thing, when that right home comes up, it's not going to be the right home for you. It's going to be the right home for you and 20 other families out there, right? So, Katie, to answer your question, I would advise a client to say, hey, Austin, when that right home comes up, we want to be able to strike like lightning, right? But to do that, we've got to be ready to get your home on the market. To do that, I think the actionable items we should do is this week, clean out the closets. Next week, repaint that room. And then we're going to have our photographer out. We're going to get the photos done. We're going to get the videos done. We're going to get all of those prep items ready. Because if that home comes on the market 3rd or 4th week of June, we can immediately get your home on the market if we have an accepted offer.
Press go on the button.
Yep.
That's the strategy.
Yep.
Let's get everything ready so that when you get under contract with the home that you want to buy, we press go.
Yep.
And we immediately get that home sold.
And that's it. And that's exactly right. Right.
Yep.
And especially like for me, I'm a plan guy. I like having a plan. So that makes me feel really comfortable. Like I like having a plan of, okay, I can take steps today and not have a lot of pressure so much, but just take steps. Right. Yep. I mean, I'm doing that with my own house right now. Like I'm actually pushing myself to go a little faster. So, I got back from seeing my sister these past 4 or 5 days. I've taken 60% of the stuff, my clothing on the main level of the house, and I'm donating it. Right. This weekend, I'm going through the basement. I'm taking 60% of everything in there. It's going. Right. And then by the time, so it's a bite-sized chunk. So by the time I actually move, because I am going to go see houses, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not this big monster of a thing. It's this bite-sized chunk. And we've got some good questions in here too.
Yep.
Tom.
Luxury homes in this market. I've got an opinion on this.
Yeah, do it.
Tom, I'll tell you an example. On my lake, I'm on Commerce Lake, and a home went on the market last week for $1.3 million. Beautiful home. Matter of fact, it might arguably be the best lot on the lake. Right? Because you're not on a hill and having to walk down. It's sunset side. It's tucked away in a cove. It's a beautiful home, completely updated. It's worth every bit of 1.3 million. And so there's the
rest of it. I clicked the wrong one. Sorry, Tom.
They want 100,000 over any comparable, but no, it will go. New build comp support it. And so what I find sometimes with on the luxury side of things is that and so I was talking to another agent that I network with, and she had a client that came in and offered 1.3 cash and lost on the home, and because they wouldn't go above 1.3, and somebody else came in and just paid more for the home, right? And so a couple of things on that. One is real estate really is a game of percentages.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, Tom, is like, look, if I'm negotiating a $200,000 home and we're talking about 5%, that's $10,000. Now $10,000 is $10,000, but $10,000 it doesn't feel like this big looming number, right?
Yeah.
If I'm negotiating a $1 million home and we're talking about 5%, we're talking about $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by the way, 50 is more than 10, except for in this case, it's not. It's the same percentage.
Yeah.
So if I've got a client that's thinking about, okay, I've got a $500,000 home, and I want to overprice my home by $100,000, the conversation that I'm having with my client in that instance is, well, I'm having a 20% over conversation, not a $100,000 conversation, right?
Yeah.
And what we know is in this market, 5% might be reasonable, 10% might be, 20% is like, that's a different animal, right?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. Like when sometimes we'll be negotiating back and forth on a $1 million property, and somebody wants to counter back with a $10,000, but $10,000 is $1,000 on a $100,000 property.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not disparaging $10,000 by no means, but what I am saying is when you look at things non-emotionally, and you look at it as a percentage of the sale, it reframes the conversation. Does that make sense? And what I find, especially with my luxury clients, is that, and this isn't always true, Mike, but like my experience with people that make money is that oftentimes they're a little older, they're a little more established, they're oftentimes they're a little more sometimes particular or used to getting things their way, right? And so sometimes I'll find people at a higher price point will dig in over the equivalent of $1,000 on a $100,000 home.
And the reason why is because they're used to getting their way.
They're just used to getting their way.
And it becomes a matter of principle.
Yep.
Not a matter of reality or fact.
Not
I've done that myself. Really? Like I literally, there's a house that I lost out on about a year ago. And that was exactly it. I dug in on principle because I'm like, come on, dude, there's no way I'm not paying $10,000 more for this thing. Nope. That house is now worth $70,000 more than I was going to pay for it. Which
Jay-Z has a line about this. I'm a big Jay-Z fan, guys.
Yeah.
Jay-Z has a line about this. There's a when you go from Manhattan into Brooklyn, you cross the Brooklyn Bridge and you end up in this neighborhood called Dumbo, right? I think it's over the Brooklyn Bridge, right? It's one of the bridges. Yes. You end up in Dumbo.
I want to know where you're going with this neighborhood.
Yeah. It's the down under the bridge. It's Dumbo. That's what it is. Anyway, so he has a line in one of his songs where he says, I had a property that I could have bought in Dumbo for $1 million, and I turn around and now it's worth $5 million. Now who's a Dumbo, right?
Oh yeah.
And he talks about like instead I got bent out of shape over nothing, but like you know what I mean. But now who's the Dumbo? Yeah. So my point is like we're dealing in percentages, and you guys, convenience means something.
Yeah.
Look, if I'm presented with two options on, like if I'm buying a car, and one option is for $25,000 and the other option is for $27,000, but it has all the things that I want, like the only time you regret it is not by just paying the extra $2,000. As a matter of fact, my car, I did that. I went a little cheap and didn't get a model with Apple CarPlay, and I kick myself every day because it's the coolest thing ever. Right?
I like CarPlay. I do.
For an extra, Mike, for an extra $500, $1,000 on the price of the home, I could have had Apple CarPlay. Right? Nice. Same kind of thing with this cash buyer on our lake. That lot is never coming up again.
Well, and how long have you owned that?
What's that?
How long have you owned that home or owned that car?
2.5 years.
Let's see, 2.5 years. So that's. And you were saying it's another $500 or $1,000?
Yeah, let's just round up and call it $1,000. I don't even think it's that, but call it $1,000 bucks.
Let's call it $1,000. So at this point in time, that is $1.04 a day.
Now who's the Dumbo? Thank you, Jay-Z.
And that's if you sell the car today. But if you keep the car another year and a half, now it's going to be 50 cents a day. For the low price of 50 cents a day, you too can have Apple CarPlay.
You could have had Apple CarPlay.
That's
for
right.
The low price of 50 cents a day, you could have had the best lot on the lake.
Yep.
Right.
And that's it. Right. Now, and Tom, I'll say this, it's all, there's two different things I think that are playing out here as well. Right. So part of it is that $100,000. How far above 500 is it? To Austin's point, I mean, if we're talking like an $800,000-$900,000 seller, 100 grand's closer to 10 to 12%. I'm not sure that that's unreasonable to try in this market. Now, if we're at 500,000, you're right. I mean, it's a 20% push, and that is difficult, right? Now, you also, and I know you know this. I mean, Tom, we've worked together in the past. A lot of respect for you. You know that. Austin ran into one about a year ago in Commerce that we looked at those comps, and the comps were 150, 200,000 below where our gut was telling us this thing could go, right?
Yeah.
And we, it was a shot in the dark, and we were like, all right, let's give it a shot. And we got 3-4 offers on it.
Yep.
Right. And here's what happened. The comps were two things. One, almost a year old. So the market had moved 15%.
Yep.
We couldn't prove it.
Yep.
And two, Both the most recent comps were foreclosures, which somehow this neighborhood had 2 foreclosures, which was nuts. It was bananas, but it did. So they were artificially low comps as well. And so we're looking at this and we're thinking, okay, our gut says 30 or 40% more, but we have zero evidence or proof.
Yep.
Zero. And we tried it. Well, Austin tried it. Austin looked at that and did it and put it on the market and got it. Now we had a massive appraisal issue that we had to get through, and we did. And it was rough, and it took 2 weeks to negotiate that thing out.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, that client got $75,000 more than what other agents were saying.
Yeah.
And who was I to say otherwise? You know, because the evidence didn't stack up, but the market did. So, like, Tom, if you're up in that 7 to 750 range and you're talking 100K, I'm not sure I wouldn't try it. I probably would. I'd probably throw it on the market at 800 instead of 700, or 825 instead of 725, or whatever that is, or 900 instead of 800, and give it a go. Because
if I were consulting with the client, Mike,
yeah,
here's the conversation I would have with the client. So any of you guys that are thinking about selling your home and you're thinking about, hey, look, I want to try to go a little bit above.
Yeah.
Here's the question I would ask you. And by the way, there's no wrong answer with it. How long would you be willing to sit at the market for that price and not sell your home?
Good point.
Right? How long would you be willing to go on the market at this price and not sell your home? Another question I might ask, let me ask you this. So, right, you want to put your home at 725.
Yeah.
Let's pretend someone came in after you'd been on the home market for, 30 days and offered you 600 cash. Would you take it?
Yes, I'd look at it.
Yeah, I'd look at it.
Yeah, I might negotiate a little bit, but I'd look at it. Yeah.
And then that conversation becomes, well, can I offer a suggestion? Why don't we try it 7.25? And we know after 30 days that we need to bump back to 650.
Yeah.
Deal? Right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of, I don't mind someone trying it, but you're at the end of the day, you're hiring us to negotiate market and sell your home. And so, look, I can't sell my Jeep Grand Cherokee that I bought that's worth $26,000 because it's 2015. No matter what the market is, I can't sell it for 35. Right? It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's just at some point the market talks to us. So I don't mind us trying to push the top of the market, but at some point we got to read the market, don't we?
You got to read the market, and if you're looking at, and you got to read the market, and you got to read all the way down to the neighborhood level, depending on the cities, right? Which is basically your Woodward corridor, your up Rochester Road into Oakland Township, your 275 corridor, all the way from South Canton, all the way up into Commerce. A lot of Ann Arbor is neighborhood based, not square footage based. So like, and you're talking about a Troy right now. If you're looking at comps that are like, let's say 400 to 500, like Somerset, right? Yeah. But you're looking at, what is it? A house that's in Beach Forest, but there just hasn't been a sale in Beach Forest in a long time. Yeah, give it the shot.
Yep.
Right, because those are two different neighborhoods, and even though they're very, very close together, you might want to give it a shot. If we're talking a little further west, and you're talking about something with a Bloomfield school, but all you've got are Avondale school comps or Troy school comps, again, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because sometimes somebody will be looking for a very specific school district, and they will be willing to pay a little bit differently or a little bit more. And that's not saying that one district is better than another. I'm saying that it's different than another.
Yeah.
Right. And that's different, right? Because like actually, here's a good example. And I always kind of go back to Clarenceville schools, right? There are people that want to be in Clarenceville because Clarenceville has a rock star hearing impaired program.
Yep.
Best in class, right? There are a lot of people that want to be in Farmington Hills schools because of their STEAM program, and because you can also go to the International Academy and it'll reroute the tax dollars over there, right? There are different reasons for different districts that are unbeknownst to us, maybe worth a shot. But to Austin's point, we also got to look at, where's this guy going, right? Like, can he wait 30 days? Does it really matter? Does he need to move? Is he under any sort of pressure? Does he have a job in Denver that he's got to be at right now? And so now he's making a double payment
Sure.
And, he's paying $3,000 a month on house A and $3,000 a month on house B, and this thing's going to start hurting pretty quick. Or is it a like to move situation? Like, hey, it'd be cool if I moved, but this house is good enough.
Yeah.
Because if the house is paid off and he's paying taxes, insurance, and utilities, that's not bad. That's a nice to move situation, not a need to move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I don't know.
I think I'd future pace it and say, hey, you know what? Let's say that I walk over here tomorrow and put a sold sign in your yard. Where are we going?
Yeah.
What does that look like? When do we need to be there? What's important to you about being there at this time?
Yeah.
And start doing some really good future pacing. Yeah, Mark. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think that's Wendy's listing on the team. Yeah, we got listing in Fenton.
Yeah. Jerry Jones tells a story. Jerry Jones has Texas Stadium, right?
Yeah.
Jerry's World, right? The big stadium. Do you know what that cost to build?
No. No idea.
It's like 1.3 billion, 1.2 billion, somewhere in there.
Jesus.
Do you know what the original budget on that by chance was? Like when they originally planned things out?
700 million?
Yeah, it was like 700 million.
Was it really?
Okay. Not quite doubled it, right? Not quite doubled it. And so someone had asked him, like, why did you do that? And he said, hey man, there's only been one time the only times that I regret the decisions that I make in my life are when I make them based on dollars.
Being cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, being cheap. And by the way, it goes both ways.
Yeah, it does.
The reason I tell this story is that, look, at the end of the day, we have to live in the homes that we buy. You better. And most people, when I sit down and talk to them about why they're moving or why they're buying into a home or whatever it is, the price is pretty far down the list.
Yeah,
there's other things that are going on in their lives, and so I would encourage people, and it's easier said than done because, right, money of course matters, and we work hard for our money. But like, look, you got to live in this house for the next 10 years. You got to go to this for the next 3,600 days in a row. You got to go and be. Did I do the math right?
Yeah.
365 times 10. Yeah, like you got to live in this home. You know what I mean? So anyway.
No, and that's the truth. And
thanks, Tom.
No, thank you as well, Tom. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And that's it. And I've made that mistake on the money thing, more than once, right? I mean, selling investment properties like a flip or a rental. I've tried to penny pinch out that last 1,000 or 2,000, end up losing the buyer, and almost invariably, I've gotten 1% to 3% less than that original buyer was offering.
Yep.
Almost invariably. And it was just me trying to pinch out another 500,000, 2,000, whatever that looked like. And I should have just gone with it, because the reality is after the buyer left, my listing became stale.
Yep.
Spent half the money just on upkeep, taxes, utilities, insurance. Spent the other half of the money on the buyer themselves, the next buyer.
Yep.
Just is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
To your point, I mean, is it nice to have an extra 1,000? Sure.
Yep.
But was it worth taking the gamble and ending up losing 3,000 or 4,000 on these investment properties that I had sold? No.
Yep.
No. Actually, one was in Troy. Where what did we put it on for? 325. I had a 320 offer right away, and I thought for sure I was going to get a full price offer, so I countered it back to full price. The guy just walked on me. He was like, "Nope, that was my offer. Sorry, I'm done. I'm out." I ended up selling it at 315.
Yep.
30 days later. So I lost 5,000 plus a month of utilities and taxes and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. That is what it is. All right. What else we got, guys? Any last questions? Anything sitting out there? This is a good one.
This is a good one, yeah. That's a good one. All right, well, let's do it to it.
Yeah, let's get on out.
Let's get on out. Well, can I end like this, Mike? Can I end it?
Do it.
Hey, I kind of said this earlier, but and I mean this genuinely. We do this so this is the real estate Q&A. We do it every Saturday, 10 a.m. I hope you found this valuable, and any questions that you have, we'll always answer that. And we try to be as candid and as real as possible with that kind of stuff. So anyway, so we appreciate you. And more than anything, we're talking about homes and we're talking about dollars and we're talking about all these things, but at the heart of this entire thing, Mike, is families. And it's families within the communities that we serve. It's families within the team members that we serve every single day. And I'm just humbled every single day, the people that put their trust in us. And I'm so grateful for it. And I take it so seriously. And I know you do too. We talk about it all the time. And one of the things that we do on the team every single day is we talk about 3 G's. We talk about gratitude, goals, and grit. And just starting with a grateful heart, I'm so grateful for all the families that give us the opportunity to serve them. And through that, build a really great life for ourselves, but it comes with that service first. And anyhow, so Mike, I appreciate your leadership every day. I appreciate our team members, and I appreciate our clients, and I appreciate you all spending time with you this morning. You could have been anywhere at Saturday at 10 a.m. and you're here with us. So thank you. I'm really grateful and humbled by that.
Absolutely. And ditto. I echo the same sentiments. Thank you.
There it is. All right. Good job by you.
Likewise. Peace.
Good job by you. See you guys.